Ole Miss takes on Tulane, and it looks like Trinidad Chambliss is going to be the guy. We talk with Michael Katz of the Daily Journal and the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal about exactly what that means.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we're going to talk with Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal about Trinidad Chambliss, what he learned when he got in touch with Trinidad's roots back in Michigan. We will also talk a little bit about the Tulane game that is coming up tomorrow. And of course, the 3 annual rivals will be announced next week. We'll have a little bit of conversation about that as well. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like Ole Miss's players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected, that's only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, so Michael Katz, we're going to bring you in. Michael, whenever you wrote the article about Trinidad Chambliss and his former coach at Ferris State and all of that, what did you learn new about Trinidad Chambliss from doing all this?
There was a ton. It was honestly incredibly enlightening. I think the first thing that really struck me was that it wasn't Trinidad Chambliss's football film that caught his head coach's attention. It was his basketball film and his role as a point guard. And Ferris State, that's a D2 power right now. They've won 3 of the last 4 national titles, I believe it is. They've had a bunch of really good players. Their head coach, Tony Nasi, he likes looking for multi-sport athletes because they have different traits, right? And so for Trinidad, his ability to see the field the way that he could, to see things happen before they happen, to make good decisions, was really one of the main reasons that he started recruiting him to Ferris State. And so I thought that was fascinating. Then the other thing too is, in this era of guys leaving when things don't go their way, and when you're stuck on the depth chart. He got to Ferris State as a 175-pound freshman. Was what his coach told me. Was never going to play as a freshman. He redshirted. He was the 4th-string quarterback the next year. The next year, they brought back 2 quarterbacks who would help them win the national championship, and he stuck with it. And spinning it forward to like what we see now, it's not surprising that he came to Ole Miss because, he knew he was going to start the season on the bench, but he's a guy who's going to take a chance on himself. And when his opportunity comes, he seizes it. And he seized the hell out of that moment last week.
Yeah, and I will say this. The coach at Ferris State, that's a cool dude. He's a fun guy. Him talking, he's like, there was a lot of Ferris State in the program down at Ole Miss. And I was like, what? What's going on there? It's like he's played in front of 4,000 people as a big game at Ferris State, and he played in front of 66,000 this past weekend. He wasn't talking about that. He's talking about pressure being like a self-inflicted thing. But he's a cool dude, and you can tell he has got a lot of D2 ego, though.
Well, hey, man, if I had won 3 national championships in 4 years, I'd talk about my program too. But I mean, they had 2 starting linemen go to Big Ten schools this year. Obviously, their quarterback is at Ole Miss. They had a receiver go to North Texas. They're churning them out pretty good over there. But I did appreciate what this didn't make the story, but he says, what do people think? Trinidad Chambliss got good in 4 months at Ole Miss or 4 years at Ferris State? I was like, it's a good point. Not wrong. He's not wrong.
I love it. I mean, there's self-confidence, there's ego, there's all of that stuff. No wonder, honestly, if you just want to look at it, no wonder Trinidad Chambliss had a transition that was fairly seamless going from Ferris State to Ole Miss, because that sounds like Lane Kiffin could have been talking to some quarterback that transferred on from his school.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of similarities. And I think that, again, when Trinidad, I'm sure probably could have transferred to some bigger school where he probably could have had more assurances of playing right away. But he just felt comfortable at Ole Miss and the staff. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And
this weekend with the Tulane Green Wave coming into town, green pants, green helmets, by the way.
Oh, is that what they're going with?
Yeah. So it's going to be a very old school looking Tulane jersey. And I've heard rumors, and by the time this gets aired, it'll be known, but it's Ole Miss wearing the classic navies with the gray pants.
So, I mean, it has potential to be an all-time uniform matchup, because when Tulane wears the right thing, they're pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, they're pretty good. When Ole Miss and Tulane plays each other, it contrasts. I don't know what it is about the Louisiana schools and Ole Miss, but if you wear the right uniform combination, it looks really good.
Yeah. So it's man, this is gonna be a fun game though. I'm really excited to see how it all kind of shakes out. I mean, obviously quarterback is one of the big things that we're looking at here. But there's a lot of really interesting side stories with this game.
Yeah, it definitely is. One thing that I noticed in my research of everything is Tulane's defense. It's been a little leaky in the run defense. They've had the same problem that Ole Miss has had, and they have not played a back as competent as Kewan Lacey, and they probably haven't played a quarterback that can run like Trinidad Chambliss. And I expect they're going to use some exotic formations and personnel groupings that they don't normally do because they are going to commit this week to Trinidad Chambliss. I think you're going to see some 2 back sets. I think you're going to see some 2 tight end sets. And with that happens, they're going to force Tulane to kind of play in a phone booth. Mm-hmm. And that gives Harrison Wallace and Deshaun Stribling and those guys all that room outside the hash to just kind of out-athlete whoever's trying to cover them.
So the other thing that was really interesting that Lane brought up, and this has been true of Jon Sumrall teams since he's been a head coach, but they're just not going to beat themselves too.
No,
they tackle well. They're fundamentally sound. Their scheme is set. Like they're not always going to win the talent battle, but they're not going to be the reason they lose the game for the most part.
Yeah, you have to beat them. They don't beat themselves.
Yeah.
And in college football, and let's be real about it. In college football, if your plan is to let the other team beat themselves, you are going to be a fairly successful head coach as long as you're well put together. You're going to have to beat them. Now, Jake Retzlaff, he's more of a runner than a passer. He threw 12 interceptions last year at BYU. He's thrown for about 150 yards a game this year at Tulane. But his running ability, he's kind of, in my opinion, a B-plus version of Taylen Green. He's not quite as athletic. But this is really bad luck for Tulane coming in right after Taylen Green.
Yeah, I mean, if listen, was it always pretty against Arkansas? No, but that second half, they really figured things out for the most part. Obviously, Taylen Green's going to do what he's going to do because he is a dynamo. I think he is one of the most underappreciated players in the country. He's going to be the reason Arkansas wins a lot of their games this year, single-handedly.
And Mike Washington.
Yes,
that is an underrated running back.
I mean, that's a heck of a duo.
Uh-huh.
But Ole Miss really kept them under control for the most part in that second half. And yeah, Retzlaff's interesting. I don't know if Tulane knew that he was going to be the runner that he's become when he got to Tulane, because I mean he ran a decent amount at BYU, but I mean it wasn't 100 and whatever yards and 4 touchdowns like he did last week in their win against Duke. But at least your last game plan was for a mobile quarterback, so it's not like you're going from we just played a pocket passer and now everything completely changes. At least I'm sure some of the same schemes and philosophies are probably there. And, with all due respect to Retzlaff, I don't know if he's quite the dynamic player that Taylen Green is.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is about to get on a couple of stretches here where they have, Gunnar Stockton, John Mateer. There's some mobility coming up. So this is probably not the worst thing for what they're doing a little bit later on. When we come back, we're going to talk to Michael more about the Tulane game and talk specifically about that defense and how to handle Jake Retzlaff. So stick around for that. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move the crowds, the culture, keep moving the game forward. Early in the game against Arkansas, the Hogs wanted to kind of test Ole Miss's young D2 transfer quarterback and sent the house after him. But he was able to find a check down, keep his eyes up, hit Caden Lee for a long pass play that ultimately set up a touchdown that kind of moved that game forward for the Rebels. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And the weather's cooling down. The days are getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make the home feel even cozier. And that's when it comes to cozifying this space this fall. Wayfair is absolutely the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your own favorite latte at home. I recently picked up a recliner from Wayfair after my surgery for recovery, and OMG, it has become indispensable, and it has completely transformed my space. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates. From comfy recliners to cozy bedding to autumn decor, you'll find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Do us a favor and subscribe and comment to the video. Subscribe to the podcast on the audio podcatcher and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. If you're interested in more, you can join the Insiders program at the subtext link down below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way ever to cancel, so give that a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. So let's go back to Michael Katz. Now, the defense had a day. And ever since 2023, the defense has kind of been the standard bearer for Ole Miss football. And that looked a little bit like the LSU game at times from 2023, to where it was just up and down the field. I am concerned that the message that we received in fall camp in the early part about the front seven may not have been completely factual. But I'm also concerned that every time I look up, Suntarine Perkins is 25 yards downfield covering a receiver. I think they can fix everything and get everything where it needs to be, but Arkansas was not it.
Yeah, no, it is interesting you brought up Perkins being downfield. He doesn't have a sack yet this year. He's been playing a lot of different in a lot of different ways this year. Yeah, no, I do go back to Pete Golding's press conference in August or whatever it was, and really talking up that group, the defensive line group, and I think the pieces are there, like the talent is there. But it just seems like whether it's missed tackles or guys being just out of position, there's just things here and there. And when guys like Washington hit a hole and there's no one there, they're going to run 47 yards to the house. Like, good teams are going to be able to take advantage of those things. It's I think sloppy is a fair term for what it's been so far.
Yeah. And the secondary in the first couple of games of the season gave up less than 100 yards passing, or averaged giving up less than 100 yards passing. In the third game, Taylor Green could complete whatever he wanted to anybody. And a lot of that had to do with the fact, in my opinion, they weren't pressuring. And Pete Golding has been a pressure defensive coordinator since he's been doing it. But running drop 8 against Taylor Green, and I understand you want to keep everything in front of you. You don't want to give up explosive plays and things like that. But I think it has to be mixed up. And whenever you're worrying about holding contain, I like Xavier Harris as much as the next person. He's an unbelievably athletic guy. He's not going to be the most quick twitch outside rush end in a ball game. I mean, there were some things that I just didn't quite understand. I'm sure they're going to get corrected before Tulane, but that was just weird to me.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss had one sack in the game, and obviously he's a hard guy to sack because he can make plays with his feet and whatnot and get out of situations. I think the other thing that's been really kind of interesting is that Ole Miss has one interception this year, and it's Xavier Harris.
Yeah.
He has the only interception, and they had a few chances against Tulane Green where there were some balls that he threw into traffic and they just didn't come up with them, or Ole Miss was just not able to get their hands on them.
There was a penalty.
Or there's a penalty, yeah. Ole Miss has just been so good these last few years because of turnover margin too. I mean, they haven't turned the ball over, and they were pretty good at getting turnovers when they needed them. Obviously, that fumble at the end of the game was huge. But one interception this year, and having none from any of your defensive backs is pretty shocking. I guess I expect it to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I need to see, just my opinion of Ole Miss's defense, I need to see more explosive plays. The tackles for loss, the sacks, the interceptions, the fumbles. The defense right now, that's the biggest problem with this defense, is they're not creating explosive plays, because Pete Golding's defense has always given up 7 or 8 yards on a third down or something like that. But what the defense does is they get a tackle for loss that is 1st and 14 or 2nd and 14 to where it's 3rd and 7 at that point, and then you have a long yardage third down. I think they need to find a way to create explosives. And right now, this Xavier Harris experiment at the end position for me is not working. I think he needs to be the JJ Pegues in this defense, and you need to do the Deshaun Womack and Prince Will or something on the outside. That is my opinion about that. I understand that they're impressed about Will Eccles. They're impressed about Jam Brown, and they can do it. Well, if you want that, if you want them on the field, it's time to play with a 4-man front. That's kind of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up them having more explosive plays, because when I think of that team last year, it's just the chaos they created behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, it was 120 tackles for loss, led the nation in sacks per game. I mean, they made life hell in the backfield for opposing teams, and it just doesn't seem like they're able to get that yet. And obviously, they had amazing players last year. But Pooh Paul lived behind the line of scrimmage last year, right? He was a huge tackle for loss guy, and he's an off-ball linebacker. It just, I know personnel changes how you do things, but it just does seem like a less chaos-inducing version of last year's defense.
Yeah, one of the rumors that I heard this week, and I don't know if it's true, just a rumor that I've heard through the grapevine, is they're trying to potentially get Andrew Jones ready to play a little bit. Because TJ Dowdery played every snap last week. That's not sustainable. They need another linebacker to at least spell him. But Andrew Jones has the athletic ability to kind of turn it loose. So I'm curious, because there was a lot of plays against Tulane Green to where you just couldn't quite catch him. No. You couldn't quite get him to the ground. And I think that is where the Andrew Jones stuff is coming from, because of his athletic ability and his speed.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the rest of that linebacker room, obviously we know what Daugherty is. Yates has been really good, and Taj Chambers has been pretty good too. But you add in the explosive factor that we've seen Jones play with at the FCS level and what we think he is. I think that's another tool in the toolbox that it seems like they're probably going to need pretty soon.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting. All right, when we come back, the SEC announced that the 3 annual permanent opponents, they're not permanent, they're annual. They're going to readjust them every 4 years, but they're going to announce those on Tuesday. When we come back, we'll ask Michael all about that. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like a home. Whether it's the local sports bar that's packed on game days, or the coffee shop that just knows your order by heart, or a corner deli that has been serving your community for decades, these are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. One of my personal favorites from when I lived in Oxford was Phillips Grocery. They just had that feel about them when you walked in there. It was amazing. It was like a cabin aesthetic. And the burger, amazing. These local spots are what makes the neighborhood feel like a home, and many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Well, it's almost the weekend, like real close. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more time every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ole Miss, it was Trinidad Chambliss. He delivered in a big way. He was a massive weapon near the goal line, both as a runner and a passer en route to 3 total touchdowns against the Arkansas Razorbacks. When the pressure was on, Trinidad came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've read the story on where he came from at Fort Ferris State, it should not surprise you, and it was not a fluke. He was on the platform for the D2 Harlan Hill Trophy, which is their Heisman Trophy. Trinidad wants to go on a streak and will have that opportunity against the Tulane Green Wave. And just like Trinidad Chambliss delivered for the Ole Miss Rebels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order, stack it all up season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is through November 18th. All right, Michael, my thoughts are, the SEC is going to announce the annual opponents that are going to be played every year. So that's the 3 permanent opponents that we've all talked about, but it won't be permanent apparently because there's probably a couple of ADs that are a little bit scared about who they're likely going to end up. But we'll discuss that as soon as the list comes out. I want, and I think it should be Mississippi State, LSU, and Arkansas. That is the obvious 3 games for annual opponents. Until it is finalized, I am going to assume the SEC is going to screw Ole Miss, and it'll be Mississippi State, Alabama, and Georgia, or something like that. Maybe add Florida in there just for the heck of it. I'm going to assume that Ole Miss is going to get the short end of the stick right now, but I guess talk me down, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, you like to think that the SEC likes to preserve certain sorts of rivalries and matchups that have been historically happening. I mean, I at least for me, LSU and Mississippi State, those are the no-brainers, right?
Yeah.
That last one, though, like Arkansas, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But the other one that keeps creeping into the back of my head is Vanderbilt, because of how many they played consecutively for like 100 years. Whatever it was until it was last year, I believe. Like, do they try to go that way? I don't know if that's the right answer. I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, Arkansas is just always a bizarre game. It's chaotic, and we love mess.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, who else do you realistically think the third one could be?
Yeah, the Tennessee. It could be Tennessee, but it also could be Georgia. And I'm dead serious about that. Until the SEC went into divisions, Ole Miss and Georgia was an every year game. That was a non-negotiable game. That's a game it could go. Like I said, Tennessee makes a ton of sense as well. And I saw a rumor, by the way, and this would just be the luckiest break of all lucky breaks. They're talking about Tennessee's annual opponents. They heard a leak inside the athletic department at Tennessee, and it was Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Alabama. And I was like, what? Oh, come on. Yeah, it was like, I guess Tennessee, because of the in-state, gets the right to claim Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt and Kentucky, that's kind of a bridge too far.
Yeah, that's some guys just got off easy, you know?
Yeah, and they're talking about like the Alabama game. They're talking about the Alabama 3 annuals, and I'm convinced that either Greg Byrne or Scott Strickland is the person that is being difficult, and the reason they have to reinvestigate this every 4 years is because Alabama will have Tennessee and they will have Auburn. Those are non-negotiables. But the LSU game, they want the LSU game, and they talk about that. Alabama fans will tell you, Luke Robinson from Locked On Bama, they want Mississippi State. It's the closest geographical game in the Southeastern Conference. And it's also probably an easy W for Alabama on most years. So stuff like that. Florida is another one that, you know, they're not going to have the Tennessee game. They're going to have Georgia. Okay, that's fine. But what's the other games going to look like? Is it Georgia, South Carolina, and like Oklahoma? Will that make sense? You know, there's some weirdness that can happen. The only non-negotiable for all three is probably Texas, and that's Oklahoma, A&M, and Arkansas. I mean, you can't mess with that at all.
Yeah, that one's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say, though, teams are lucky that they don't have Vanderbilt on their schedule right now because
they are a legitimately good team.
They're fun. They are fun. It's not just Pavia. Like, they are good. Yeah.
This is one of those things. They're going to be 5-0 going to Tuscaloosa, and I am not slam dunking the Tide on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I know Tennessee has had its way with them in recent years, but that's going to be a fun game when it comes around. Yeah, man, Clark Lee he has done an incredible job there.
Yeah, just give him a statue and a lifetime contract.
For real.
As long as Jerry Kill's alive, just prop him up, weekend at Bernie's it, and just keep rolling. So
just keep his playbook.
Yeah, just keep that going because they're fantastic. The Jon Sumrall situation, he's coming up to Oxford. I talked to you a little bit today, and I said it's a little bit weird that he's making the Ole Miss podcast rounds whenever the head coach of Tulane is coming up. And not only that, a genuine playoff contender head coach of Tulane making the Ole Miss podcast rounds. That's weird to me.
Yeah, it is a little strange. That being said, if he's playing the marketability game, I think he realizes that he's probably going to be a coach in this conference very, very soon. Might as well open yourself up, let people know who you are if they don't. Because he's an incredibly likable guy. I mean, he's gonna win over whatever fan base gets him. I know there's always been a lot of talk. Kentucky's been the one that's come up a lot, and that would make a lot of sense, obviously, with his connection there. Whoever it ends up being, maybe Kentucky wins the rest of their games. Who knows? Probably not from what I saw, but there's going to be some opening. Maybe it's Florida. If that goes south, Sumrall is going to have a really nice job, and I think it is a little bit weird that he's going on the opposing podcast, but at the same time, right now for him, no PR is bad PR.
Yeah, and the fit for him. And when you look at it, he would absolutely fit like a glove at Arkansas. That would be the greatest fit at Arkansas since, I don't know, Houston Nutt got there back in the early 90s before that went all south. Yeah, that would be the fit. I don't think Kentucky's the fit because they've decided they're going to go all in on basketball.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Florida because his resume is honestly too similar to what Billy Napier had. Yeah. And so they won't deal with it. They're probably going to try and find somebody in the Power 5 level that's coaching, maybe a Big 12 coach or an ACC coach. Brent Key, if he would leave Georgia Tech, would be a good hire there. But yeah, it's interesting to me. I just thought that was kind of weird. I like Jon Sumrall. I think he's an elite coach and he's a nice guy and he's extremely likable, and he is going to be intense enough to where he can do the Nick Saban thing and stand up for his people, and it doesn't come across as fake or performative.
For sure. I am right now envisioning Lane Kiffin going on Tulane podcasts, turning the situation around. How bizarre would that be, right?
Yes. The only thing, the crazy thing, I actually felt bad for you this past weekend whenever Pete Thamel announced that Austin Simmons was a game time decision, and then Chris Lowe was announcing. It's like, you got people that are literally in every press conference and standing around there, and yet you're just picking up the phone and sending a text message, and they're putting out a story. Hey.
That's it's the way it is, good or bad.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you got going on at the Daily Journal this week, man?
So obviously, like we talked about earlier, my interview with Trinidad Chambliss is Coach at Ferris State, honestly, just super fascinating stuff. One thing I was really curious about was, were you mad at him when he told you he was leaving? Like, you're losing your national title quarterback. And he's like, dude, like, I love this kid. And he told me like why. And you can't help but feel good for Trinidad. And Trinidad's a really likable guy. If you've seen his press conference from last weekend, the smile, he has charisma. He just sort of takes over a room. It makes a lot of sense why his coach loves him and people gravitate toward him. Just a really cool story. Other than that, I did a Q&A with Tulane beat writer looking at kind of how their season's gone and sort of the things that make their offense and defense tick. A little bit more about Retzlaff and what he's brought to the table. And then just some classic preview stuff. So we got a little bit of everything going on at olddjournal.com.
All right. It's nice of you to dress up for me, man.
Yeah, no, it's behind this. Yes. Behind the scenes, this is I was fortunate enough to be on the Paul Feinbaum show earlier today, but I was like, I'm not going to shortchange Stephen Willis. If he's seen me in my meme shirt, he can see me in a tie. Yeah.
Anyway, be safe heading over to the ball game, and thank you so much for coming on, Mike.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your number one and go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It's absolutely free and helps the show. Your support means the world to us. And another big moment for Locked On, college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson and former college star Jesse Holley, along with the Locked On local experts. I was on this week, as a matter of fact. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Amazon Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.